Yeah, so the underlying philosophy for openness and acquisitions, a lot of Twitter's success came from its early openness and its willingness to put out an API and have other people build the system and build the features. So what does it mean for the company to acquire and to build its own features? I can't speak for the direction of the company. I'm just chairman and co-founder, and we have a whole management team running that thing now. But I can speak for like a personal philosophy that the API actually came out of a practical need. The other developer that I got to work in those first 2 weeks was from Germany, and he really wanted the real-time aspect of Twitter. So he was on a sidekick on AOL Instant Messenger all the time. He was roaming about Berlin, and he just wanted to update from anywhere, like the rest of us in the States did with SMS. So what we did is we built a very simple 4-function API that allowed him to hook up an AOL Instant Messenger bot and be out anywhere to update the system and receive updates in real time. And that was the beginning of the API. It was just a practical need. It was not a overall strategy, but it's something that we immediately recognized as useful, and something that because we were so constrained with our resources, and the service was, for the first year and a half, was going down almost every day in some way and failing in massive ways. That's where the whale that you sometimes see comes from. It helped us out a lot because people would build these systems that we just could not address yet. And the other thing is they would build new functionality that we weren't even thinking about. So I think the way that the company is thinking now is like, how do we take those amazing products and those amazing directions and give them to the entire mass of the network? For me, in particular with like an iPhone client with Tweety, when I go to the App Store and look for an app for a company, I want to see their name. I tend to go to the source, and I think a lot of people are in the same bucket. The normal mainstream audience wants to, when they want a Twitter client for Twitter on the App Store for their iPhone, they want to see Twitter. It's just without thinking, they know how to download that and they know how to use it. So there will always be an ecosystem of other clients and other ways to view this data, and I think that's really, really important, is to with this acquisition of Tweety, to use it as a way to encourage best practices, not to lock everyone out of the party, but to encourage best practices and come up with the baseline of features that people should expect around Twitter, and to stabilize that into a thing. So I think that's what you're seeing. We also acquired a search engine a long time ago called Surmise, and did something very similar with them. It's being used everywhere on the site, and we've been able to not only build a bunch of features and make easier the features that users are building, but also give search in one common place to everyone. So it's just a question of like mass and reach and making sure that everyone can participate, even if they're not in the know of the hottest client or the hottest thing on Twitter today.
I thought it was really interesting what you guys did with the verified accounts, and a very necessary thing, but I was just wondering how, it's very opaque, at least to me, how that works. Just wondering if there are any plans to scale that, because I think identity is a really huge feature of this. And right now, you can really create an account with anyone's name and their photo, and for all intents and purposes, you are them, able to say things on their behalf. And you may not be Obama, but you might want to have some control over, who the real you is. What are your plans in that direction?
So the question is verified accounts and what the plans are to scale that out. It's very, very limited right now. And that actually came out of a practical need as well. And this was from two directions, I think. During the swine flu epidemic, there was a lot of misinformation. And the CDC got on Twitter to start dispelling this misinformation. we've been thinking about like how we verify identity for quite some time, but that was a major trigger to make sure that they got a verified badge, that we went and we actually did the work to verify them and verify that they were actually who they said they were. And the White House also got on Twitter so that it could point to the CDC's account to verify that they are actually the CDC and they're spreading the correct information. So it got the White House back into the service. It was there before, but kind of dropped off. But that event in particular caused a whole string of verification. So it is, as I understand it, a very timely process and something that the company is working on improving and, just as you said, scaling out. Scaling out potentially to commercial entities, to the public figures that we're already verifying, but just to bring some more policy and procedure to that. And I think in the past, because it had to be, it was because of the resource constraints. It's been very reactive, and the company now is doing a lot of great work to build policies around that and what that means. So it's definitely a major concern of support and also of the company.
I have a question. If you're an employee at a publishing house, and you may be a little nervous about saying things on behalf of the company, how would you sort of walk that line between being an employee and being an individual? That's one question.
All right. So how do you steer around the issue where you might be seen as representing the entire company as an individual? And I think the easiest way to do it is just to put that out, to say like, I work at this company, but I don't necessarily speak for it, but these are my thoughts around the industry. And that's hard to do in 140 characters, obviously. It kind of takes up everything, but that would be the first step, is to like kind of get that on the table and potentially open up a conversation around just that fact, so that you can actually go to whoever you need to go to in marketing or in public relations and talk to them about what you're doing on these social networks and how best to separate your persona from the persona and the image of the company, if that's even necessary. There's a lot of companies that don't think that is necessary, that they're completely comfortable with the various personas of the company representing them fully.
You wouldn't recommend having two accounts, in other words, having a personal and having professional?
I personally wouldn't recommend it because I just hate maintaining multiple things. I like one simple thing, and I think like a service like this, you have a situation where it's nice that you, as Jason, you represent thinking in this time, and then some other completely random event happens, but it's still Jason, and there's one place to find all of Jason's thoughts on everything. I think you can do it with hashtags as well. Like I'm in my publishing pundit mode right now, so disclosure. But I personally just don't like maintaining multiple things. I think it's too hard. It requires too much thinking, and it kind of takes away from what you're trying to say. If you have to think like, oh, this needs to go to my publishing account now, and why is that?
But do you think companies should have their own? Like I've seen, for instance, imprints like Knopf have its own Twitter account, and so obviously somebody's speaking for that account. How do you reconcile that with the personal?
So should companies have their own account, and then how do they relate to personal accounts?